Thanks.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting of the Property Committee to order for Thursday, May 6th, 2021. I'm seeing virtually Vice Chair Woolrab, Member Wachczynski, Member Thompson, and myself present, and looks like in the room, Member Smith and Member Nguyen. Ms. Morlock, is that correct? Are those the only two members in the room?
Yes, sir. Those are the only two members in the room. The only one I have
Great.
absent
All right.
is Ms. Bloomfield.
Member Bloomfield. Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to item number 2 on the agenda, approval of our consent agenda. We entertain a motion for that from the committee. A motion by Member Smith, a second. Second by Member Wachczynski. All right, any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Morlock, please call the roll for item 2, consent agenda approval. The chair will vote.
Thank you. Member Wendt.
Yes.
Member Bloomfield, I'm sorry, Member Smith. Yes. Member Thompson. Looks like, oh, here he is. Member Thompson. Member Wachczynski.
Yes.
Member Woolrab.
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Number 3, do we have any appearance by members of the public this evening?
Chairman Barnett, we do not.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Just to sort of give an overview here real quick, the way we're going to handle the rest of the agenda this evening. Staff have prepared their regular reports for us, but they're not going to read through them in detail as they usually do, because after Property Committee gets done this evening, the Rules Committee has a meeting, and I would like to help our staff get home before 10 o'clock if that's possible. So when we get to the section of reports for staff for this month, if anyone on the committee has questions about something in the reports, staff would be happy to answer that, but we're going to forego the detailed review of them this month, if that's okay. So moving on to item 4, the agenda, departmental matters. 4A, 1A, Mr. Doherty is bringing forward for approval, request approval of single bid for the purchase of a pickup truck from Hendershot CDJR. And we're happy to entertain a motion for approval on that from the committee. Motion by Member Thompson, second by Member Wachczynski. Mr. Doherty, the floor is yours to tell us about your new pickup truck you'd like to purchase.
Mr. Doherty, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. I don't know if others are having that same challenge.
We can't.
I'm not able to hear either.
Okay. Don't know what the deal is, sir, but we can't hear you. Sorry. I'd be happy to answer any questions, though. We did go through all the proper procurement procedures for this, and I believe legal has reviewed the documents as well. So certainly we can answer questions as a team if you have them.
Mr. Doherty, thumbs up. Are you happy with this bid and the truck that's been selected? Okay, that's in the affirmative. All right, very good. Okay, any questions from the committee? Discussion? All right, seeing none. Ms. Morlock, let's go ahead and call the roll on 4A, 1A. The chair will vote.
Member Wendt.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Thompson.
Yes.
Member Wachczynski.
Yes.
Member Woolrab.
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda is 4A, 1B, request approval of contract with Global Water Technology for water treatment system and a cooling tower. It's on pages 8 through 36 of our packet, and would entertain a motion for approval on that. Motion by Vice Chair Woolrab, second. Second by Member Thompson. Thank you. Mr. Doherty, do you want to try again? No. Can't hear you. Shoot. Okay.
I can try. I know
Mr.
that
Rodriguez,
both-
you want to pitch it on this?
I can try. Poor Mr. Doherty. Normally he teaches me thoroughly about these things, and I know that again, I believe this was part of something planned for in either the capital improvement or just a normal course of action that we needed to take. And he's followed all the procedures as well in this regard and had legal review the contracts for your hopefully approval so we can move forward on this next step.
And if I've read this correctly, this is for improvements in the Law and Justice Center, the Health Department, the Government Center, and the Juvenile Detention Center. If I read that correctly?
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Moloch, go ahead and call the roll for 4A1B. The chair will vote.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Wachinski,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item on the agenda is Mr. Doherty's report. Why don't we, there are a couple things on the report, maybe Administrator Rodriguez, if you can tee these up for us, as Mr. Doherty's having some microphone issues. The first one, I'd like to welcome, of course, to the committee. Should have mentioned this in the beginning. My apologies. Sheriff Sandage is with us. Always good to have him here at the committee. We had a bit of an incident, a little bit of a water leak in the administrative area of the Law and Justice Center, where the sheriff and his senior staff are normally housed. Administrator Rodriguez, could you share some of that with us and give us a bit of an update? And Sheriff, of course, we'd love to hear from you as well.
I can, and it was at my request that Sheriff Sandage join us. We had some fun with the sheriff this morning and asked if we needed a pool pass to come down to the administrative area. But honestly, it's truly only because we want to laugh about all of the misery. Mr. Doherty would use the right vocabulary words, but we had a major malfunction. And there are pictures and photographs in your attachments for review, but a significant amount of water then entered the administrative area of the Law and Justice Center where Sheriff Sandage and his staff are housed. It happened in an evening, I believe it was a Monday night, and facility staff, of course, responded. We immediately had to call in a company, I won't name them, to serve us to try to get some of the water out, but Mr. Spanos and several other staff are working together to address the issues that will need to be presented to our adjusters and to communicate further on next steps as to the repair and mitigation of the problem. But I brought the sheriff here because I felt like, above and beyond the obvious technical observations that Mr. Doherty could give if his microphone were working, I wanted you to hear the human side of it and the management side of it, because it truly does affect the sheriff's ability to have staff in that area. So I turn it over to you, Sheriff Sandage.
Sheriff, if you could, before you start, could you, just so everyone is aware, could you sort of describe, where you're physically at within the building, and so everyone has an understanding where it's at within the Law and Justice Center?
Yeah, can everyone hear me? Okay, we're located on the main level of the Law and Justice Center. What happened was we had a water pipe fail, I think is the best way to put it. On the evening, fortunately, a correctional officer noticed it as they were going on break and was able to call people in. Facilities maintenance came in, and by the time I got here, there was probably 2 inches of water throughout the administrative area here that affected several offices on the ground level, but that water also affected our emergency management agency in the basement, which is below us. Besides being displaced and besides some work that needs to be done, I think we came out of it pretty lucky, actually. As far as damages, we had some damaged drywall. In the basement, we could have lost a lot of electronics, but I don't believe we did. I think they were salvageable. And I think we lost 3 laptops here in the sheriff's office that got wet. But considering all the other equipment that was around, I think we got very lucky. So it is an inconvenience, but we'll get through it. And as bad as it could have been, we came out of it pretty lucky.
Are you and your staff able to work in the space right now as it is, or have you had to be temporarily relocated someplace else? Or?
We can pretty much work out of our offices. It smells a little musty, but when we can't work in our office, we do have a training room and a conference room also that we can work out of. So we do have space to work out of.
Any questions from the committee? Vice Chair Woolred.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, and since Mr. Doherty we're unable to hear him, and whether anybody else knows, is this a situation that could have been foreseen or prevented with some maintenance of some kind, or is this just one of those things? Pipes tend to be inside of walls and you can't see them. I realize that. So is there anything that might have been done ahead of time? And I'm not faulting staff here. What I'm just trying to understand, I spoke to some of this yesterday at our finance committee meeting, just trying to understand whether we're so far behind on our maintenance or this is just one of those things. Which is it an example of?
I think it's just one of those things. That pipe was inside of a wall. It is in the original part of the building. It wasn't in the addition, the new addition. So it's, Tim might know better what causes pipes like that to fail, but I don't believe it's anything that could have been prevented at all.
Was that, I'm trying to remember, that particular section of the Law and Justice Center, was that originally built in, wasn't it like the mid-70s or?
1976, I believe.
Yeah. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, Administrator Rodriguez.
I just want to thank Mr. Doherty and his staff, and as well the sheriff and his staff. It's always important to show leadership and flexibility. I was on the phone with the sheriff that evening into the night saying, do I need to find you office space? And it was, we were all willing to roll up our sleeves and make sure that his staff was well taken care of so they could do their jobs as well. So I just appreciate everybody, and we'll get there. But we wanted the committee to know right away. So thank you. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Thank you all. Mr. Doherty, I know you can't answer me. Maybe Administrator Rodriguez knows the answer to this. I saw in the report the museum roof project, or the test area done, looks like it was successful, and we'll be moving forward with that here. Looks like maybe before the month is over. Is that
It is, yes, and Mr. Doherty is affirming through a positive nod. I am on the periphery of the emails where Mr. Doherty meets with the contractors and with museum staff regularly to get updates. I will say one thing, you know, we're going to thank the community for their flexibility as well, because I believe it's the crane that is going to be put in place right around the time of farmers market. So Director Emig and I, the museum director, we were trying to think of creative ways to get kids involved and have guessing games as to how tall is the crane. But we do realize that the whole community we're going to owe them a thank you for this big project, because it's going to be in the way, but not in a bad way. We just know that the timing is going to be as such that it will affect some of that, but it won't prohibit those types of activities, and we'll just have to make sure everyone's safe. But we're moving along, so that's good news.
That is good news. It was exciting to see work on that begin. So. All right, any questions or any other inquiries from the committee about Mr. Doherty's monthly report? Okay, seeing none, let's keep moving through the agenda. We're now on 4B, 1A. Mr. Steffa, our Parks Director, has brought forward to us request approval of sewage treatment plant lagoon project bid to the Sludge Group, which is on page 41 of your packet. And to get this on the floor, we would entertain a motion for approval from the committee. Motion by Member Smith. Am I seeing that correctly, Logan? I apologize. Thank you. Second. Second by Vice Chair Woolrad. All right, let's go ahead and open this up for Mr. Steffa. Would you like to give us an overview real quick before we open it up to discussion from the committee?
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. This project has been a long time coming, obviously. We did put this out for request for proposals. We had a mandatory on-site showing, and three groups showed up, or three companies showed up. Stewart Spreading, the Sludge Group, and Precision Pumping Incorporated. Two of them put bids in. Obviously, you can see on page 41 that the Sludge Group came in approximately $21,000 lower than Stewart Spreading. So everybody met, or those two companies met the requirements of the request for proposals. So I would like to make or just recommend that we go ahead and approve that, please. I'm happy to answer any more questions if anybody has any.
Questions from the committee? Member Thompson.
So I have some serious concerns about the process. It's my understanding they're going to be hauling all this product out. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have we had discussions with the highway department on what's going to happen to the roads after we have several hundred truckloads?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Have we had any discussions with the transportation department in regards to what's going to happen to the roads?
We have not.
We're talking probably 300-400 loads. That'd be close.
I'm sorry, I'm getting like every other word.
Member Thompson, if you, I could try to translate if it's helpful. Can
So
you
I
hear
think-
me, Steffa?
I can hear you, yes. Based on what little bit I know about it, we're going to have 300 to 400 loads of product going out of the plant, or out of the. Would that be correct?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Steffa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Thompson said the reason he was wondering about the roads is he was concerned because his impression is that there would be 300 to 400 loads sludge going out, and was concerned about the impact on township and county highways.
It is my understanding now, obviously I'm not an expert, but there wouldn't be quite that many loads going out. I know the liquid will be going either to El Paso or Gridley. And the sludge itself will be going to area farmers' fields. It was my understanding that it would be less than that.
So is there a reason we did not entertain the process of the drag line? Did you hear me, Josh?
Yeah, the last thing, dry, what was it?
Oh, the drag line process where we don't have to haul that truck's hauling it.
Drag hauling. Yeah, thank you. Okay, Mr. Steffa, Member Thompson wondered if there was a reason why we didn't entertain a process that involved drag hauling out of there, so there wasn't so much truck.
No, I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not familiar with that process.
So it's my understanding that the company that did not put bid in was told that they had to haul it out, and that's the process they use. Two concerns. One, it's considerably cheaper. You don't have the truck. I guess I would be interested in seeing what the options are on that process before we move forward on this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still not. It's like I get every other word and it's kind of muffled. I'm sorry.
So Mr. Thompson, I think, was referring to, I believe, the third bid on there. There was no bid. Is that correct?
Yes.
His understanding was that the process that the third bidder that didn't submit a bid would have used would have been a different process to remove the liquid and sludge from the pit, and would be in the end cheaper than either one of the bids that we ended up receiving. And he was concerned why that option, that different method wasn't considered, and thinks that we should consider looking into that before we approve this bid.
Yeah, I would be.
Gerald, is that, am I doing you justice there? I want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if the property committee wishes that we pull this and we go put another option in the RFP, I'd be more than happy to do that.
I think it would be very, very helpful. I mean, number one, I think it's going to be cheaper because you're not going to have the trucking involved. And number two, I have serious concerns, and I've actually reached out to the highway department and just I think we need to get their input in this before we start having that many trucks in and out of the park. But the roads will probably be fine. The park roads will be destroyed. And the cost of fixing those is going to be significant if it's a problem. And I'm making it to something that we need to address that and look into it before we move forward. We have to start fixing those roads. That's a big number. So I would either we hold off on this until we get additional information from either the third group and the highway department, or I would be in favor of voting for this. I guess that was it.
Vice Chair Wilreb, one moment, if I might. Member Thompson, are you making a formal motion to hold on this until next month when we can look into other options and get more information?
I guess, am I the only one that has this concern, or does anybody else share these concerns? At this point, I reserve that if somebody else wants to reserve the option to do that, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty concerned, I guess, at the idea of 400 truckloads of sludge tearing up the roads that had come alarms. I mean, that's certainly a concern, yeah.
And Member Webb has a question,
yeah.
maybe she's.
Vice Chair Wilrep.
So I was going to ask Mr. Steffa whether there was a particular reason why, and I know nothing about these helping sludge out, but I don't understand the line process, so that would be filled in a little bit on what happens to all the stuff if you're not hauling it. Beside that, there was a reason Steffa wrote the a particular way. It didn't open it to
I'm sorry,
caution.
Vice Chair Wilrep, I apologize. May I interrupt you for just a moment? Mr. Steffa, I was just going to ask you if you could mute. We're getting some terrible feedback from you in the background. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Wilrep, I don't know about the rest of the committee, but I probably heard about every fourth word you said. Would you mind
Sure.
restating that?
Yeah, so I'll start again. I know nothing about either of these processes, but it would be interesting to hear maybe a little bit about what happens to sludge if you're not hauling it out. Where does it go? That's one question. The other question is whether or not Mr. Steffa, when he or whoever wrote the RFP, had a particular reason for writing it the way that it was written, and didn't consider other methods.
Is it okay for me to go ahead
Mr.
now?
Steffa, did you catch all that?
Yes, got everything. Yeah. The reason why we wrote it the way we wrote it was so we wouldn't have to keep it or spread it in house, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, spread it in the park anywhere. My concern there would have been if we would have had a high rain event and we spread it in a field nearby, could it affect the water quality in the lake? That was my biggest concern about that, and the reason we wrote it the way we did.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, Member Thompson.
I just respond to that. I mean, first of all, it has to be injected into the soil. So chance of runoff are slim to none. And secondly, it has to be applied at a rate that it would be no greater than a typical fertilizer application that a farmer would apply anyway. But I don't find that to be a big concern. You have to be, you could be careful of where you apply it on the field so to avoid high slopes. But again, I guess I would be in favor of postponing this, make that a motion to postpone until next month, until we can get information on the third option. And then secondly, some input on the ramifications to the roads leading to the park, but more importantly, the park itself with that much traffic. So I make that motion.
Okay. Motion by Member Thompson to table this to next month's property committee meeting and to look into those items that he detailed there. Second from anyone else on the committee? Vice Chair Wilrep, is that a second? Yep. Okay. All right. We have a motion to table this until the next property committee meeting in June, which would be the first Thursday in June. Ms. Morlock, would you please call the roll on this, and the chair will vote.
Member Went? Motion to
Yes.
table? Okay.
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Member Wachinski?
Yes.
Member Woolrab?
Yes.
Chairman Barnett?
Yes. Vice Chair Woolrab.
I have an additional question about this. If if it turns out that it would be feasible to spread it nearby, I have a question or concern about whether there would be odor associated with that and how that would affect the park's utilization.
I think the odor would be a non-factor. I don't think it would be that bad. That's my opinion. Just being down at the sewage treatment plant. I've been in the water before, come back up with sludge on me. I personally don't think it's that bad, but again, that's my personal opinion.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item on our agenda, which is for B. 1B, request approval of general tractor rental agreement with John Deere. It's on pages 42 through 47 in the packet. And we'll entertain a motion for approval of that. Motion by member Smith. Second. Second by member Thompson. All right, Mr. Steffa, time for a new tractor. That's always exciting. Tell us about this.
Yeah, in the past, we've been doing what's called a general lease contract, tractor lease agreement. Our legal team, Miss Vasquez, I believe, yeah, that's she caught some wording in there that would really the liability for the county would have been riskier, I guess, for lack of a better word. So instead of doing a lease agreement, we decided to go with a general rental agreement. A lot less liability, lot easier. The wording in the agreement's a lot easier. Basically, it breaks down to an 8-month rental agreement for 300 hours, or 12 months for 350 hours, which we would probably more than likely go with the 12 months at 350 hours. And it's $18 per hour. And roughly that, I think that broke down to about $6,700 for the year, which is a little more than the lease agreement, but as far as the liability for the county, there's a lot less liability for us. And our current agreement ends June 30th. So that's right around the corner.
Mr. Stefan, did we lose you?
I think we did.
Okay. Well, any questions from the committee? As I recall, we do this every year, don't for the park to be able to use it's a smaller tractor out there for their various needs. Any questions at all from the committee? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll on item 4B, 1B. The chair will vote.
Member Wendt,
Yes.
member Smith,
Yes.
member Thompson,
Yes.
member Wachinski,
Yes.
member Woolrab,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you all. All right, we're down to 4C, Administrator Rodriguez.
Thank you. I'm using my computer, so I'm going to slide back up and make sure I'm on the right. Yes. So I don't have any items to present for action, Chairman Barnett, but I do have a couple of items just for your information within your packet. As per Chairman Barnett's, request to stick to a healthy schedule for this committee of reports and information. I say that out of care. I do. I think it's fantastic. It keeps us on track. You will see a first quarter budget update. I take no credit for the creation of this, even though my name is on it. The administrative team, especially Ms. Dreyer, worked on this, and you'll see that our revenues and expenditures are on track. We're a little under in supplies, about right on track on personnel, but in the essence of keeping with time here and our hard stop to be on time for our rules subcommittee, I'll entertain any questions, or so will both assistant county administrators if you have questions.
Vice Chair Woolrod.
Thank you, Chairman. I do see in the Mr. Steffa's report that, and I don't know if it's how current exactly this is, it's of the 29th of last month, that the park maintenance supervisor position still apparently as of that date was open and been posted for 4 weeks. So we had that conversation yesterday in finance about updating some salaries. And I think we were in agreement that this was one, if not other ones for maintenance that would be going to be looked at. Is that correct?
I have not heard from Mr. Steffa that there were concerns. I was actually referring last night to positions in Mr. Doherty's operations, but we will certainly reach back around to Mr. Steffa and investigate that, Member Woolrat. We'd be happy to. Thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes,
in my
ma'am.
last check-in with Mr. Steffa, he had 4 applicants that he was preparing to interview for the position.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee or comments about the quarterly financial update? I would just, give thanks to the staff for the quality of this report. This is easy to read. It's easy to understand. It's great to be able to have it in a format like this. You can dive in and see critical information in a way that you can absorb that information quickly rather than having to pick through pages of Excel spreadsheets and budget reports. This is really top notch. Thank you so much for the time that you and the staff put in on this. All right, moving on to the last next item on the agenda. Oh gosh, yes, facility tours. Well, I'm sorry, Administrator Rodriguez, pardon me.
I was hoping just to very briefly give the membership a very quick update on the solar work that staff and I are doing. I'll be brief, sir. Thank you for that opportunity. So a couple of months ago, you gave us the direction to research the use of solar panels on McLean County buildings. And as you know, I have been working with one of the approved vendors from the Illinois Solar for All program. I'll summarize to say that we are poised tomorrow to submit an application for consideration that the downtown area and even more, all the way to Veterans Parkway, becomes designated as an environmental justice area. And what this will do is allow us to apply for the Illinois Solar for All grants. And so there was a step in the process ahead of us being able to apply for those grants, and we are very close. It's been a collaborative process with the McLean County Regional Planning Commission as well as the city of Bloomington. So we're very excited, so are they, because if this is granted, we will be able to offer this to other businesses and even homes in the area who could, on their own, of course, apply for grants to get solar on their homes or businesses. I will say that in the preliminary estimates of what would be the savings if we installed solar on either 200 West Front or on the Law and Justice Center and Detention Facility, the estimates right now do come out at about $22,000 a year in savings on the detention facility law and justice center. The footprint of the 200 West Front is a little smaller. You know, the roof is smaller, and there are things on the roof. There are things in the way, and there's a lot of shade on that roof. The estimate was around $5,200 per year in savings. So it is significant, both of those buildings, and we keep moving forward to try to make this happen for McLean County government. I will finally add that if we were unable to apply for the Illinois Solar for All program, for example, if we do not receive the environmental justice designation, then we will examine and bring to the committee the power purchase agreement option, which is where straight up solar will help us find investors that they will then put solar on our buildings should the committee want to go that way. And we would see a different kind of savings, but it would still likely eventually be savings for us. So we will keep you updated.
That's great. Thank you so very much. Do you mind, Administrator Rodriguez, if I take the lead on the facilities tour?
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So in conversation with administration, as we are all probably aware, we suddenly have like 8,000 meetings in the month of May around with our regular meetings plus the special ones that have been called with redistricting. So if there are no objections from the committee, what we would like to do is hold off on our property committee facility tour until later on in June, if that's okay with the committee. Hearing back from members of the committee, it sounded like the preference was either whatever works for us as far as the day goes, or I believe someone said that they would prefer trying to knock it all out in one full day. So if that's okay with the committee, that's what we'll plan for. We'll get a date set here pretty soon and get it out there so that everyone can make appropriate preparations for that. I told Administrator Rodriguez my intention is to reach out once we get a date set to anyone who joined the board last December, just to invite them to attend the facility tours and come along with it too, so they can also see these firsthand. All right, moving on to item 5 on the agenda, other business and communications. Member Lehman, who is not a member of the committee, but had requested to attend the meeting this evening and requested to speak and ask a couple of questions, is here this evening, and I told her that'd be great. We'd be happy to have her here with us. So welcome, Member Lehman. Glad to have you here, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Barnett. Thank you, Property Committee. Absolutely my pleasure to be here, and I'll try to keep this brief so we can continue moving forward. So one thing that I noticed in our last April general session was one of the items that came out of the Property Committee for approval was in relation to the HVAC proposal for the animal control area. In taking a look at the items in the proposal, one of them was the 95% efficient LP gas furnace. The other one was the 13 SEER air conditioned unit. I did a little bit of looking around, a little bit of internet research, if you will. It looks like the 95% efficient LP gas furnace is right up there with being a very energy efficient piece of equipment that will ultimately hand down some great savings to the county long term. One thing that I did notice is the 13 SEER air conditioned unit is really on the low end of energy efficiency. And there are, a variety of different kinds of situations and setups, and up to 16 SEER that would really be able to hand the county some long-term energy efficiency savings units. So my question to Mr. Daugherty, as well as the Property Committee, I was curious. So when we're going through the process of selecting or putting out for proposal, putting out for bid, these large pieces of equipment that are ultimately an investment, so it's something that we're going to have around for a very long time. What considerations are taken for energy efficiency when we're taking a look at the cost in the bid? And do we consider the savings of maybe a more expensive energy efficient piece of equipment down the road?
Well, so unfortunately, Mr. Doherty, his microphone is not working this evening. So
It
I
might
have
be
to,
working by now, Chairman Barnett. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. Mr. Doherty
Oh.
might have it working by now. You can try, Mr. Doherty, if you may. Otherwise, I will do my best to answer.
You hear me now?
hey, yes.
Wonderful. Yes, we did, but we felt like we had to make just a few compromises. We're already over the selected budget, and you know, since air conditioning season or heating season, we looked at the longevity of BTU hours and that, and agreed to scale back a little bit on the air conditioning equipment. So that was basically the only reason why. If the board so chooses, we can go out for a higher SEER rating. I think you're right. 16 SEER is kind of midfield these days. There's even higher equipment out there than that. But of course, if you want to save energy, you got to pay up front for the equipment. So I was trying to stay within the realm of the budget. And like I said, we did go over. So
Certainly. May I ask a follow-up question?
sure.
So is looking at the energy efficiency of the equipment one of the steps in the process when you go through and you kind of start doing the research on any of the next up items?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for the background and for sharing. I appreciate it.
Glad my microphone joined.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to hear your voice.
Oh my.
And Member Lehman, I don't know if you heard me mention this before, but in June, the committee will be taking a tour of all of our facilities, and we'll extend an invitation to you since you joined the board last year. We'll be happy to have you join us for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Great. All right. Any other business or communications to come before the committee? Vice Chair Woolred.
I want to thank Member Lehman for bringing that forward. It's a very important item, especially I wonder, if we could have conversation at some point in the future. Certainly not tonight, but about perhaps looking at payback period on energy savings, rather than only the up. And I'm not implying that Mr. Doherty doesn't do that, but if we could also be sure that we're considering that and understanding what payback period is on savings, so that becomes a feature in our exploration. Thanks.
That's a good thought. Okay, anyone else?
Chairman Barnett,
Yes.
I had some technical difficulties there, obviously, in the middle of my the rental agreement for the tractor. I apologize for that. I guess if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
You're good. We approved it.
I apologize for that, and my phone's been having some problems. I think it may be time to get a new phone.
That's all right. That's all part of the fun of our modern our modern meetings that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steffen. Appreciate your time. Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your service to the county.